It's March 22nd, and it's time to do a little planting in the greenhouse here. It hadn't passed our last frost date, but we're going to put a few things in anyway. We've just harvested our potatoes out of this bed here. There was a little bit of parsley. It was getting a little bit large, so we took it out too. And now we're going to come back in here and put out some of our tomato plants. Now these tomatoes are really they're needing to get separated out. They're getting kind of leggy. Then they're definitely wanting out of their pots. I've got a bunch of different varieties, and I've got some I believe some pak choi right here. We're going to do a little underplanting with it. We've got some Hilton Chinese cabbage here. This is going to go do some underplanting under there too, and I don't know, we might put a little lettuce if we need be. And also we're going to come over here. I've got this flagged where I want my tomato plants. We're going to go ahead and take out what lettuce we need to out of this row, and we'll wait. And we've revitalized this one with some more compost on top. We'll wait and do that one after this mix here starts getting to where it starts trying to bolt, and we take it out. Our tomatoes will be big enough, it won't hurt to pile a little compost up around them. But what we're going to do is take out a few of these lettuces in here where we've got the flag, so we can put tomatoes in, and that'll give us a little salad for this evening too. Got a few of them planted. Now earlier in some of my videos I had talked about the fact that I was going to underplant a lot of this stuff in the greenhouse, because whenever I do that I utilize the space better. These tomatoes, they will shade these Chinese cabbage, but the Chinese cabbage should do fine up under there in that shade. They're going to grow pretty quick. They're going to be done pretty quick, and then I'll come back in and I'll plant something else. And I'll probably stick a few green onions in here too. What it'll do is confuse some of the pests with the onions, but also they're not going to bother these tomatoes. Now they might not form as big of onions as when I put them out in a bed by themselves, because I can't put the nitrogen to them like I would in the bed, you know, with the fish emulsion and stuff. But they'll make good green onions, and they will bulb. They just won't be as big, or they probably won't be as big. They could be. We'll see what happens. But anyway, what I've got here, as you can see, I planted these tomatoes way up to the top. Now it looks like this originally, and what I'm doing is I'm just pinching off these leaves that are down here lower. Now all these little hairs on here will take and root out. So what I'm doing, I'm using my little ditch digging shovel. It's a little narrower than the sharpshooter, but I'm just making a little hole there, and then I'm dropping them down in deep. That way the roots are deep. I don't necessarily have to have them all that deep, because they will go on down. But being they're leggy like this, there's no reason to have all this extra growth. Let's put it to work. Get it down underneath the soil and let it build a sturdy root system. But anyway, I'm going to finish out this row and continue like this. But I just wanted to show you, this is the way you plant your tomatoes when they're tall and leggy. If you've grown them this way. Normally I don't grow them this way, but I did put these on a heat mat. I started them earlier than I normally do, and they really got to get in the ground. So timing is important. The root system on them is nice. It's not overly root bound or anything. It has a lot of roots, and they'll go ahead and come on out. There's no need to take and tease these off because they're just really not root bound. They'll go real good. And so let me get them in the ground. And here's my little harvest of potatoes that we cleaned out of that bed. Okay, I got my planting of what I can do here in the greenhouse. Right now, we took and had to replace some of these cucumbers or larger ones that I put in here. I wasn't watching them close, and they weren't getting enough water, and they were kind of basically drying out. Of course, I had some to replace them. Now, like I say, I'm going to do a lot of undercropping this year. Now, this is pak choi that's planted here beside it on both sides. We'll be stringing up these once they get big enough, so they're not going to matter, and the pak choi will do fine if it does have a little bit less light. Now, over here in our lettuce, of course, I left my flags in so I can tell where my plants are, but went ahead and planted the tomatoes. These are planted deep like the others, but I planted them in amongst the lettuce here where I could actually still harvest. Of course, some of this is going to seed, so it won't be long this will be taken out, but and we'll plant something else. Over on this side, we've got this row planted all the way to the end. We've got a couple of different varieties of tomatoes here. We've got an ox heart, and then down at the end we've got some couple different cherry tomatoes. We've got a Brad's Atomic Grape, and then some Sun Gold. Now, some of these Sun Golds don't look really good, and hopefully they'll pull through, but they were on the opposite side of the tray where I was watering, and apparently I wasn't watering that good because a few trays were affected. So, but anyway, what we did was down here we had planted the Hilton cabbage in between here, this Chinese cabbage, and then we came up here and we planted bok choy in between on this row. So definitely we're going to do some underplanting, and what we'll probably do is come along the side here and plant green onions, and those green onions they'll be green. We'll get some of these onions put in there, but they'll kind of confuse the bugs hopefully, and cut down a little bit on some of the damage that attracts greens and tomatoes too. But anyway, that's where we're setting. We'll get, after this cool spell, we're going to go ahead, and I need to get a hose over here and do some watering on this one. I hadn't been running my drip system. It's kind of odd in the greenhouse because there's a slight slope, and this end up here takes, and when it rains, there's some mole runs that come down, and they bring water in here, so it gets more saturated up at this end, and then it's drier at the other end. So I can't really, if it's been raining, I can't really run the drip system because it'll overwater up at the top, and then won't be a lot at the bottom. So I have to hand water, which isn't a big deal. I come out here regular and do my plants anyway. I've got to definitely get some plants out. We've got some peppers here that really look like they want to go in the ground. These are some hatch green chilies, and they want to go. And of course, we've got some squash plants. Normally we just direct seed, and we got cucumbers over here too, and a lot of herbs, but normally we direct seed a lot of those cucumbers and squash, but this year we're going to do the plants. It'll give us a few weeks of earlier start on them. But anyway, that's where we're setting. We got that done. If you want to see more of my videos, of course, hit that subscribe, hit the bell so you'll be notified, and give it a big thumbs up. Happy gardening.